Dan, you are officially participating remotely.
Thank you, everybody, and I'll try to remember the 1 second lag better than I did during the budget.
I don't think anyone could tell. Any board comments or committee updates? We have a meeting since our last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So do you want to go over it?
The teacher growth and evaluation committee continued to work on the components of what the ideal plan would look like. And we put forth some key components that everybody felt that they could all agree should be part of the plan, and did some small reports of that when we are meeting again in September.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Any other?
Improvement Committee related matters. So I do want to officially request that we set up a Capital Improvement Committee meeting here and
Do it.
as soon as possible, so we can kind of get obviously you're the chair of the Towns Committee, right? So you got some, you can pull some strings. So anyway, so we're going to want to get that going, so we'll set that up. Just keep that in mind. And then one thing I did want to mention, I have this is highly unusual, but it's highly unusual from my career in education, but it's not highly unusual from the standpoint of how federal agencies function. There's the new Title IX regulations that were created by the Department of Justice back in April. The guidance that they were supposed to give to school districts to be able to implement those was very late in the game. And so July 31st, that was yesterday, for those of you keeping track, that that the new regulations are going to effect on August 1st, and that you need to make sure you have these things in place to implement. So as you can imagine, I was not successful in putting all of these things in place. Obviously, I do want to state that clearly we will follow all laws and guidelines, so please know that. That being said, one of the things that the New Hampshire School Board Association is recommending that we do, because of the lateness in this guidance, is that they're recommending immediate action on a short-term basis. So at the next board meeting, I would like to suggest that I would bring to you 5 policies that we skip the policy process because we wouldn't have time to go through that, to bring to the board to meet the federal requirements, with the idea that at the next policy meeting, the policy committee would then take those under advisement and then make whatever revisions need to be done. But in order to get us compliant with the new regulations, we've got to move. Some of them are things like making sure that we have the right references in our handbooks and that kind of stuff. It's all about equity. It's all about how we manage that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you're looking for some light reading, I have a 90-page document that was, like I say, was given to us yesterday, and with the idea of implement on August 1st. So thank you, federal government, for being so efficient in getting that to us. So with all sarcasm there, I am done.
Great, thank you very much. Next up, we're fortunate to have Dave Riley here for a few presentations and discussions. First being courtyard update, I understand.
Courtyard update. The site work for the courtyard is complete. It's an expansion of usable space, so the hope is that the site will be paid by impact fees. So that work should have been done with no impact to our budget at all. We're waiting for picnic tables. We've ordered the same picnic tables that are currently in Pocket Park in town. Town is very happy with those tables. They're very easy to maintain. They're sturdy. They last forever. They also weigh 350 pounds, which is nice, so they won't be moved around. And 3 of them will go in the spaces that are out there. We're also ordering 2 aluminum tables that are 100 and something pounds. Those will go in the lower half, and the idea is those will be configured, moved around, to give more flexibility to the space. So we're really excited to finally have something done in the courtyard.
So should we officially get up and go to the window and look at it?
You can certainly,
I eat, but
the price of a silk sheet for me to
Dan,
drop
should
was
we
just
turn
not in the
Dan
budget.
sideways, or-
Oh, he sent a picture.
Yeah,
4 dogs.
that's great.
He's gonna carry
Four dogs.
Looks fantastic.
So the next thing is, the next thing is part of the capital plan. The cornice on the high school was painted. I'm sure you all noticed walking in. It's very high, nobody sees it, but it was scraped, primed, and painted. So not only does it make the school look much nicer, but it'll also stop deterioration. So we won't have a bigger issue in the future. Very excited to get that done, and that was actually done significantly under the estimate given by the capital plan. So we did save some funds there.
Now, can I just, I'm looking at the picture online, and now the sign, Newmarket High School, looks kind of dirty compared to that cornice.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you see
That's
what I mean?
granite, isn't it?
No, but it just looks so, they're like night and day.
Well,
But
I met
It looks
with-
great, though.
I met with someone who does masonry work today to walk around and look at, as part of the capital plan, what masonry work needs to be done on the school. So perhaps I can give that a quick scrub while they're out there and see if we can help that.
You don't have, I'm just saying.
We can go do that.
The resilient rubber surfacing is down at NES, and that playground is once again fully opened. The playground was completed before the RSA went into effect, stating that the surface has to be resilient rubber. But our idea was to meet the spirit of the law and to certainly give anybody who needs wheelchair access to all the equipment. Even if you can't play on it, you can be next to your friends while they play on it. I think it came out really nice. We also have the sunshades installed. So if you go there with your kids, you can sit in the shade. And then the ADA compliant sandbox is also underneath the sunshade. So kids who have issues where they can't be out in the sun can still go out there and play and enjoy the playground. So I think that's really meeting our community needs. I think everybody's really happy with it. You should go walk on it. It's bouncy, it's fun, it's good stuff.
It's school colors too. It's red and black school.
Yeah,
Newmarket
it's school colors.
Pretty cool.
So it looks really nice, and it's fall zone compliant. So just like even more so than the chips, it's bouncy. If you were to fall off a slide on this stuff, you would probably bounce right back up onto your feet and be ready to go. So that's very
Don't
exciting.
test that, please.
No.
Don't test that.
Next up is the 24-25 capital plan operating budget planned maintenance, which is exciting stuff, which is listing everything I'm planning on getting done this year with our increased budget. So I've already got quotes for the painting of the parking lots. That again came in significantly lower because the town is kind enough to do our crack sealing, which the capital plan accounted for. So the funds we're saving for that is allowing us to do more projects out of this fund. I met with a masonry gentleman this morning. We've already got the cornice, so we're cranking along on this capital plan. I'm very excited to be getting this stuff done. After that is the 24-25 capital plan trust reserve projects I plan to do. I've called and I'm trying to get in touch with our current roofing contractor. I need to go to roofing school. Some of the roofs are built-up roof asphalt. Some of them are rubber roofs, and I want to know the pros and cons. Can I go from built-up asphalt to a rubber roof? What would be the benefit? What would be the costs? Because the built-up asphalt is more expensive than the rubber roofing. So I'm just, desperate to learn everything I can about this stuff from an expert so I can present options. And then after that is the project trust balance totals. That shows the projects we'll be taking out of our reserves. And it's a 5-year run rate showing that I'm not, bringing that down to -12 or anything. That we do have enough funds, and if we continue to make the contributions to that we've planned, it will stay fluid and we'll have enough funds, if the worst happens, we have an accident, we have an emergency where, a roof fails that we're not planning on doing, we will still have reserve funds to do those repairs. So I think we're firing on all cylinders in facilities. We're doing exciting stuff. We're making great improvements. I can't be happier with where we are and where we're going.
And just a quick reminder that the $100,000 list, those are all projects that your team are taking on internally, correct?
Well, it's out of my operating budget. Some of them, the masonry work on the high school,
Right.
my guys can't do. We don't have scaffolding, we're not getting up there. The majority of them, my guys are doing internally. Some of them that we're not capable of doing, like the masonry work, we're, going to do an RFP.
And then the trust fund projects are those much larger scale
Yes,
projects
yes.
that we
Yeah.
have predicted out over 20 years, and this is kind of where we're at for the upcoming year.
Yes, we do currently have roofs that were installed in 1994 on our schools, and those are the roofs we're looking to replace this year because they are past life expectancy, and preventive maintenance is always cheaper than corrective. Let's do it before they leak and start causing damage in the schools.
It's funny, I was looking at the picture you provided of the cornice. I'm wondering, is that the original from the original building?
I believe it is.
Because don't forget, this is the 100th anniversary of this building. Fall of 2024, the oldest part of Newmarket Junior Senior High is 100 years old. And be on the lookout for the Historical Society to invite people in to do some great programs around our history.
It's also a great reminder for me because the school's been here for 100 years. Anything I do, I've got to assume it's going to be here for another 100 years. So let's make sure we do it right. I want to make the next facilities director's life significantly easy.
Dave, I do have a couple of questions. So the replacement of the old windows in the rear of the elementary school, those are the windows that were from the old section, not the new addition that was added.
They are the old section, not the new addition, and they're the windows. When we did the project 2 years ago, we did the front of the school. These are the back of the school. The new windows allow much better airflow, and honestly, again, in case of emergency, you can get out the new
And
windows.
that's all the windows, so this is the last year of windows for
Last we heard of
25
windows
years.
at the elementary school
at the
for.
elementary school. Fair enough. And then on the gym equipment, granted, I'm not here during the day very often, but the gym curtain divider, is that ever used?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
It
great.
is,
All right,
and it
perfect.
is in sorry shape.
It's probably almost 100 years old itself.
It gets inspected annually. It's safe, but it's sad looking.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions for Dave?
So we're about to power off, Dan.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead, cancel on your way back.
The,
Somebody went over those.
yeah. So, and maybe it's for our conversation,
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if you, I think I know there was a robust look at what our projects were gonna be and what the, but I also know the world shifts and things happen and as we are looking at the plan we've built out, I'm assuming that every year we're also looking at it and being okay, is this still the right order of events? And
I have an Excel spreadsheet that lists all projects I'll be doing from operating budget, projects we'll be doing from trusts, and it is a very fluid document.
Okay,
So
yeah.
every year I freeze it, the next year I open it up and we look, let's prioritize, let's see where have we saved money. Perhaps we can do some projects a little earlier because we've saved money on earlier projects. So it is a very fluid document.
Perfect, thank you.
Great,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Next up, we have Jen Melton with the Health Benefits Committee report, as well as the 2025-26 budget estimates follow-up that we asked for.
Right. Hello. So the health benefits analysis, it's a business case that the committee put together. As you recall, we started meeting in January. We met January right through June. It was a group of individuals from all areas of, operational areas of the school. We had teachers, we had administrators, we had paras, we had support staff members. Everybody had an opportunity to volunteer onto this committee, and I have to tell you, just as a plug for this committee, there was a lot of work. We looked at a lot of data, and there was a lot of, we invited different companies in at least 2 times each. We did analysis, we charted graphs and costs, and everybody on that committee was in it with the intention of coming up with the best solutions for the whole district. Not, nobody was looking at just their own area. We were trying to find a good solution. We did surveys with staff. It was a very, very comprehensive analysis. So what you have in front of you is only a few pages long, but just know that there's a lot of analysis and a lot of time in here. So we wound up looking at 3 different administrator groups for healthcare plans. And from those 3 different groups, we looked at a total of 9 different health plans. We went, looking through all of those plans, kind of, I'll skip to the kind of the summary of it is at the top. So as we looked at that, based on our analysis, we determined collectively with 100% unanimous consensus that the plan that we're on right now is not the plan that we think is best for the district. We had, the group was pretty evenly split. Choices 1 and 2 were very close for everybody in the committee. And you can see the analysis behind that. But to a person, the current plan that we are on was the 3rd best choice. So we are bringing this to you, and we hope that after this meeting, it will be something that the union representatives can also look at as we go into collective bargaining to talk about, where we're going to go as a district, and hopefully we go in the same direction together. To sum it up.
This committee was also in the contract, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. In this committee actually stemmed from both collective bargaining units as an item that they wanted us to look at together. So very comprehensive. Our goals were obviously to find a plan that offers quality care at the most reasonable cost and provides the highest benefit to the most number of people. So at the end of the day, like I said, there's a lot of analysis. We chose 2 different ways to kind of quantify and analyze the data. The first was we had them come in, we actually gave them a census of our employees and what current people pick. And based on that, we asked them to come back and present plans to us for what they felt were the best options for the district. We then looked at those districts and the associated costs, and we compared them. The 2 lowest cost plans, or the 2 lowest combinations of plans, I should say, were both choices 1 and 2 that the committee was pretty much unanimously decided on. New Hampshire Interlocal Trust was our second choice. Our first choice was Health Trust, but everyone in the committee said that if the choice went the other way, if the board had to make decisions for cost-cutting measures or whatever, everyone could live with whatever their second choice was. So we looked at that, and then we tried to come up with a creative way to figure, that talks about the premiums that come out, but then there's the other component of what people actually pay when you go to access service. So we kind of took a unique approach. We created kind of a consumer basket of healthcare goods, amoxicillin prescription and, a surgery, and we kind of packaged it all up, and then we sent it back out to the companies and we said, price this out for us. Tell us what it would be under these plans, what an individual would pay for if all of this happened in June, when you have no deductible, you haven't met, and then what would happen again if it happened at the end of the year after you'd met your deductible. And we basically compared. And once again, the 2 lowest out-of-pocket cost providers for those combination plans were our choices 1 and 2. And they were fairly close. Interlocal Trust, actually, with our basket of goods, resulted in no out-of-pocket costs because it was all covered. And there was a very low, several $100 cost to under Health Trust. The other plans that we looked at were higher by thousands of dollars. So we can pretty comfortably say that, you know, obviously the premiums change year to year, and we were basing this on our current book of business, which is our current staff. And they did price out, they were looking at 24, 25 rates, everybody. So we were looking apples to apples as far as the rates. But yeah, those were the recommendations that we have. So we're hoping that if the board needs any additional information, we're happy to have anybody, any of the administrative teams come in and speak if you would like to hear more details about any of the plans or that type of information. But really, it's quite an impressive feat that the committee did pull together. And all three of the administrative groups said that they were very, very impressed with the amount of work and the analysis that was done on behalf of this committee, and that they really don't usually see that when they go out and offer quotes. So a lot of good things there to be proud of. So.
And I would just say too, I mean, Jenna has led two very large-scale efforts that have made a big difference in district. You heard about the employee handbook work that was done, and then this. These are big lift kind of things. But one of the things that was very impressive right from the beginning in both cases is just how collaboratively people came to the table and wanted to find solutions. And I think what I hope will be the result of this is when we are in negotiations talking about benefits, we're on the same page before we even get to the table. And I think that's really, really helpful. So thank you, Jenna.
And while it's not cast in stone, depending on which options the board ultimately, the board and the unions, because they have a, you know, would need to decide too, but should we choose one of the two lower cost plans, we may actually be able to help ourselves a little bit with our budget, because both of them came in at a lower rate than our current provider. So we, you know, getting everybody to come to the table, getting everybody to kind of get on board and make a change at the same time could benefit all groups, so financially. So, any questions on that?
I think so. Head right into budget estimate follow-up.
Right. So when I was here on July 11th, we kind of presented the board with our preliminary estimates of costs associated with like a level services budget, meaning no new positions, no new programs. Based on that estimate, we calculated a 3.23% increase would be needed to keep things exactly the same, accelerating them for costs. That does not include any teacher salary increases because they're in a collective bargaining unit, and they're in a year where we would be putting that on as a separate warrant article. The board had asked us to kind of go back, you know, and say, hey, can we look at some different ranges? You know, you've got 3.23. Can you look at 1%, 2%, 3%? What would that look like? What might those impacts be? So that's what we've tried to do today. The first thing we did is we took a look at, you know, as I said last time, it was a pretty...
Actually, can I just jump in? I
Yeah.
just want to emphasize that this is, at this point, an intellectual exercise.
Right.
I just want people to be clear about that no decisions are being made. We're simply trying to put a concept to ideas. So it's an intellectual exercise. No commitments are made to anything. This just gets us, it's a math problem at this
Right.
point. Right.
Just to give you a sense of kind of what the magnitude of different cuts might mean for our overall district budget. So we went back to what we had estimated to see if there was anything in that amount that we might be able to tweak out. We were able to find about $11,000 that we could reduce. So that brought us down to a 3.18% level services budget. That's our starting place. And then the board had asked us to, what would happen if it was 3%, what would happen if it was 2%, and what would happen if it was only a 1% increase. So the difference is a 3% increase from 24-25 would mean that our level services budget would be reduced by almost $62,000. A 2% increase would mean that our level service budget would need to be reduced by $336,000. And a 1% budget increase from 24-25, which is a very small increase, means that we would have to reduce by over $600,000 to get to that. So those are kind of the things that we looked at. Then we went and tried to present, just some gross numbers, general average type of costs for the board to consider. If you are considering getting to some of those larger cuts, 75 to 80% of our budget is staffing and benefits and salaries. So we gave you some costs associated with an average staff position. We also gave you some non-staffing options that I'll talk about in a minute. But what we tried to do is we said, if we, for example, if we needed to reduce by a teacher, the average would be somewhere between, around 87,000 if you needed to do that. If that would be all benefits included, right? If we were looking at a half-time teacher, it's approximately 36,000. So you all can read the chart, but that kind of gives you a sense of if you're trying to get to 600,000 or 500,000 or whatever you're trying to get to, those are kind of the numbers that you would play with to get to that. The non-staffing options, we looked at a couple things. There are obviously pros and cons to anything that you would decide. One of them is obviously, and Dave just did a great job of talking about our capital improvements. We obviously could, if we had to, defer some of that capital improvement to save, to gain some economies in that direction. The con is that we just have put in place a capital improvement plan that we feel will meet all those needs, right? So if we undermine it in year one, what will the impact be in year 20 for not doing those things? We also have some capital reserves and expendable trust funds that you know about. We could, as a means to reduce our budgetary cost, we could tap some of those for purposes for which they're outlined. We have a technology expendable trust. We have a couple of capital reserves for repair and maintenance and school improvement. We have a special education trust. We have a utility capital reserve trust. And finally, we have an insurance and benefits expendable trust. So we could strategically draw down some of those, some or all of those in different ways to meet other costs in our budget as one means of getting to a lower number if that's what you're looking at. So that's kind of the summary of, very high level, very big estimates of how you could achieve these goals. Obviously, if the directive is that we are looking at a certain percentage increase or a certain dollar increase that we have to stay within, we would then need to go back and look at specifics. These are just kind of averages, not tied to any particular thing. Does anyone have questions on that?
Now, while you're thinking about questions, it would be incredibly helpful if we could establish a budget goal out of this conversation, because we are literally starting the process anyway. So the more guidance you can give us, the better.
No one wants to talk first.
Yeah. Knowing that we have negotiations, which are also, well, in year one, they don't necessarily reflect on the budget. They certainly reflect in the tax rate of the town. And in the following years, they'll reflect in the budget. So we have to consider that in this number. And I have to say some of the staffing considerations that, again, intellectual exercise only, are quite shocking. What you'd have to do to get down to 2 or 1%. I'm hard pressed going back to the taxpayers again with a 4% increase.
I personally feel comfortable at 3, but I think we may need to tap into some of those trust funds because, I mean, with the taxes as high as they are, like this last year, I mean, I would be in favor of that. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Anyone else feel that way?
I mean, so I think the 3% increase well, from our level services would require 62K reduction. It's still an 821K increase, like ultimately, and like, which I get is level services, that's just how the world works, and it's not like, but it's, that is not an inconsequential number. That, I'm with you, I'm with the chair, and that like, if we were even to say 2.5% increase, like, that would not be easily found. You're not gonna find that by like saving a few pencils here and there, right? Like, that's,
I mean, I was at 2 or lower, to be honest with you. And I don't know where that comes from. And I don't want to set us up in a worse spot in the following years by drastically taking away money from trust funds either, and from not making commitments to the capital improvement plan that we've talked about.
I know, but I just don't see it lower than 3. I just can't really see that happening, but I'm just being realistic, I think.
I don't know if a 3 would pass. I mean, 3%, but it's also, on a larger number, larger base number.
It's such a drastic difference between
I know.
3 and 2.
I
for
know.
Yeah.
The reduction of level service, which is why I'm echoing Phil's thinking about like, would 2.5 be a number that would be harder to get to than the 62,000, but significantly
easier than
easier than.
335, 336. I mean, and I think that there's, and I don't want to get into problem solving, right? We're trying to like set a target. Wow, I'm loud right now.
All right.
But I do think it's not necessarily
Can you
always
turn the volume down a little in this room, Tim? Thanks.
as much as I love the sound of my own voice. Thanks, Jim. Like, we wouldn't necessarily have to always just draw down on trust funds, right? Like,
Right.
there could be like 1 year we're putting less into trust funds, right? Like, which is risk. It all comes with risk, right? But like, there are certainly potential, like, again, riskier, we're incurring risk, but that is not structural change. It would be potentially less painful to make. I just don't know how, like, what that all meets out to when it comes to a percentage.
There's definitely a difficulty with what the voters vote on and how it's presented on the warrant, because most of what we put in the trust funds, we take out of ending balance, which is neither something the voters vote on, nor anything that actually shows up in the calculations on the warrant. So, if any way to do this, and to me, I don't think I'm in favor of it, because honestly, it feels a little disingenuous to me, but a way to do this is you reduce the operating budget, and you throw some warrants on that says, if there's remaining fund balance, we'll fund this. If there's remaining fund balance, we'll fund that.
Oh, like fund, like operating things.
Yeah, you could basically move your contributions to capital reserve in separate warrants that allows you to bring the operating budget down. It gives the voters the choice to say, we fund this or we don't fund this, depending on whether there is balance left in the general fund at the end of the year. I don't intuitively feel like I like the idea, because I think it's difficult for someone who really only thinks about this once a year to wrap their head around. But it is an option that does give voters more granular control over this. The question being, can we educate folks enough in time for election day for them to exercise that control in a way that's consistent with what they actually want?
So Dan, you're like the resident tax rate expert. If it was a 2% increase, which would be a 548, right? 547, 548. What is that to the average like taxpayer?
Before or after?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, let's assume the revow is double, like, just to make math easier, let's assume that we're a $2 billion town. Just for math,
If you're a $2 billion town, every $200,000 is
50 cents.
10 cents on the tax rate.
Is it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because when we were
Oh,
a
200.
billion, it was 10 cents,
Yeah,
right?
you're right,
10 cents on what?
100,000.
Per-
Yeah.
My recollection is about 1.7.
Yeah,
After the revow, I'm confident that number comes down by some amount, probably a small amount into the fields. But, I mean, I think 1.7 seems like a reasonable number to have in your head when thinking about this. But, I mean, the reality, that only changes how the hit is distributed. In percentage terms, the hit is the hit. The tax rate, it just falls out of the math. And if everybody's assessment went up by the same amount, everyone would still pay the same.
Right, you're like, generally, we're gonna be paying the same, right? It's just like, so I guess for me, what I'm trying to get at is, if we were at a 3% or we're at a 2%, what is the difference in how much your average person is paying?
so that's, let's say
Taxes.
600,000, that would be 30 cents per thousand.
Per thousand, and what's the average home price
Now?
here? Before or after the revow, right?
Now, 500,000, I don't know.
Our budget is about 2/3 of the tax rate in round numbers, so let's think in pre-revaluation numbers. We're about $20 out of the 30. So 1% difference in that is 20 cents. And so if your house is 300,000, it isn't an enormous difference, except in the sense that all differences add up.
So that's 300,000 is 3,000, and 10% of that is $300. If I move my decimals correctly.
Yeah.
And with the revaluation, it's probably, well, you're right, the tax rate's gonna change, so,
The tax rate's gonna come down.
so NFT should.
Revaluation, very round numbers, is picked up the tax rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
It's actually more like 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what someone's tax bill looks like is gonna be like,
Right.
Right.
basically the same.
there'll be winners and
Right,
losers,
because
but
the
yeah.
valuation of their
Yeah,
house
yeah.
or whatever goes
Yeah,
up
Yeah. and the tax
times a
comes
lower
down.
rate, yeah.
But I
On
think
average, yeah.
I think it's worthy to note, though, that when you look at the analysis, the lower end of the market values went up at a higher rate than the
Yeah.
upper end of the market. And so you
Yes.
will have a higher impact on lower end homes.
Yes, that's the main difference of this is, if you're at the higher end of the market, it's actually more likely that your valuation is closer to market than if you were at the lower end of the market.
Yeah.
It's neither right or wrong, it's just the way it is. I'm not wild about the option that I laid out, but I think it's worth saying it is an option.
But then where does that leave us? Like, I mean, in some ways, I love the idea, right? Let's put the power in the taxpayers' hands, and if they vote it out, then you're cutting your own nose off, and we're not responsible. But that's not what we're elected to do.
We're not
And
select
it's
people.
not necessarily proportional with the number of people who have kids who vote, so we may not.
You could also end up with an incredibly disjointed budget where you've got a bunch of people, like things that are voted on via individual warrant, which would like basically limit what you can use the money for, to what the purpose of that warrant was.
Yeah.
And like, what if some get in and some don't? And then you have this like totally like wonky. And that's how we end up at NUR.
That's the primary reason I'm
Yeah.
not super wild about the idea. But if, we do put a fair number of capital reserve fund contributions in the operating budget.
Yeah.
It's just the way we've traditionally done
if I could, just I suggest that this is the starting point, given a goal. The how that we get to the goal is still to be determined. And also, the methods that we use don't have to be decided tonight either. Just a full disclosure, I did meet with my leadership team the other day, and we have been talking as 2% being kind of where we're starting our work. Now, obviously, at any point in the process, you guys are going to be weighing in on everything as we go along. And I hope that between Jen and I, we've developed enough rapport with you that you trust that if we come to you and say, look, we tried to get to 2 and we could only get to 2.5, that you'd understand that we did everything that we could to do that. And I think that's the relationship we've always had. So anyway, my point is, setting the goal is the aspirational side. We need a number to be able to start the work, to make some recommendations, so that you can then go through them, and we can put specifics to this stuff. And you can say that, well, that's too high of a price to pay. No, we don't. And I would say the capital improvement warrant article, we consciously didn't do it as out of the year-end fund balance because we said it was too important. We wanted to make sure it was paid for. If you do it out of the year-end fund balance, if you don't have fund balance to fund it, it doesn't get funded. And I think so that was why we did that. Bottom line, though, is whatever you tell us, we will work to try to build it, and then you will be weighing in all along the way. Nothing that we decide tonight locks us into anything, but it does give us a direction and a starting point.
So I was inclined to 2.5%. Your mention of the disproportional impact of the revaluation on people that are like at the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, like sits with me. And if you are, as a leadership team, generally looking at 2%, not 2.5%, like I would support that as a general goal.
I can't guarantee we can get there, but that's what
We
what
can
we
try.
started
That's what you're
talking
trying
about.
for. That's what you're looking at as a target, and we hit somewhere around there. I'm comfortable with that. If you're comfortable with that, I don't know what.
No, I kind of thought we more or less come to that agreement last meeting, and we just wanted to see what that impact might have. And it's upsetting, but I don't think I can really comfortably change my mind from 2% or below, knowing, like you said,
Yeah.
people who've been in this town for 30 years can't absorb it like some other people can.
And I will tell you, if we come up with some good creative way to go even further than that, we're at least going to suggest it to you. So I just know that I do want to throw out a couple of things just in the category of things to be aware of. Our contract with our custodial services company is up for renegotiation, so we don't know what that's going to be yet, as well as our food service contract is up as well. So we don't know what those numbers are, as well as our health insurance benefits. Those are the three that are sort of the unknowns that we often are dealing with.
I know we did a ton of work coming up with the switch to outsourcing those. But back of envelope calculations as to whether bringing those back in long-term makes fiscal sense is probably always worth some consideration. I suspect it won't, but
We have done some initial looking at that this spring, and based on what we see for the labor market, we actually had a vacancy in our staff, and we were kind of gauging like how our applications came in for that one. In order for us to make this switch over, we would need nine people out of the gate.
Yep.
And we just don't see right now the labor market being in a place that can support 9 people at this demographic, at this wage rate.
Yep.
To make that switch back. So we're kind of looking at moving forward with it, doing the best we can with it. We obviously continue, as Dave talked about, we try and make savings on the other end. We have made a lot of savings by bringing tasks in-house and having our facilities tech team handle that. I mean, we used to have people come around and our HVAC systems, they were changing all the filters and doing that. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing it ourselves. We're checking our own emergency lights. We're doing a lot of services we paid for. So we're hoping that on that end of it, we're going to be able to see some savings by controlling those costs with people that we have to do that part. So that's kind of the calculus that we have right now.
Great, it's good to hear, thank you. I guess one last thing I would say relative to budget is, yeah, certainly we could look at reducing funding of capital reserves, but I think we're also making a commitment to future generations by funding those and to future boards. So we need to really be careful about.
Yeah, I think that there's some merit in what Gary's saying in the sense that if you're gonna shortchange capital reserve in order to put off making structural changes that need to be changed, you're hurting yourself twice.
Yeah. Fair point.
Because you're shortchanging the future and because you're thinking of structural changes that need to be looked at and probably made.
I feel like the board always take over the whole conversation. Do you guys, is there any last comments you folks want to make or anything you want?
So can I just, we are going to move forward working towards the 2%, and then obviously we'll continue to have this dialogue throughout the budget process, right?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, so we will head down to discussion items, and apparently we have some items from Janet Mellon, so I hope you didn't sit down. I can do them for you if you'd like, but I guess first we
This is Janet's
see.
meeting.
Yeah, first, is there anyone who received any correspondence? That'd be embarrassing if we had 15 letters of correspondence we had to discuss. Okay, thanks. So first up, or second up, excuse me, would be the transfer of appropriations from my view literacy program. Basically, RSA and policy requires that.
Right.
You get approval to transfer funds.
Right, they do. So when we first started looking at this, Patty Wands, as you know, has been piloting those two programs, right? Well, she was banking on splitting it out over a 3-year period. The program that the teachers chose, which we think is a great program, they have some limitations. They will only allow us to split it over 2. So we looked at the different areas of our budget. We already have $35,000 earmarked for this program, so we needed to come up with roughly another $30,500. And so on page 2, you can see we're looking at transferring some money from curriculum area, professional services, because by going with this program, we won't need so much professional development on literacy. So that was a good rationale. Instructional staff training, again, it's embedded in this program. So we felt that we could make the economies there. And then our math books, we have a lower need for them. We're on the 2nd year of our math program, so we have a better sense of what we need for replaceable books in there. So we thought the other 10,000 could come from that line. As you know, when I present figures to you, normally I don't make transfers. I think nothing speaks louder than a negative number. But in this case, because these are such significant amounts, I feel it makes sense for us to make this transfer so that we don't inadvertently overspend on this important item.
And the good news is the year after next, there'll be no cost because we will have one
Right.
year where we will not. have
Right.
to-
Year 3, which we had kind of earmarked that we were going to have a third of the cost, we will have paid in full for the program before that time. So.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, head right into Janet, I'll sit down, please.
Yeah.
Last time, I promise,
That's okay.
unless we find a reason to ask questions later. You could go over the Seacoast Technology Expendable Trust Fund release that.
Yeah, it's actually the school technology
Oh, I'm
expend.
sorry, thank you.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
So this is one of our capital reserve funds. And I'm asking you to dig way back in the cobwebs of your memory, but when we put last year's budget together, we had said, is there, I believe one of the members of the board recommended that maybe we use the school technology trust fund to offset some of our expenditures. And I explained that even if we chose to do that, we still have to raise and appropriate the money in our budget or we can't spend it. So the money's sitting in the budget. So I'm bringing it back to you to remind you of that idea that you had. If you wish to take $25,000 from the trust fund to offset what we currently have in our equipment replacement, we can do that. There's a mechanism for doing it. You need to have a public hearing, which can run concurrent with your board, regular board meeting. You just put it on as an agenda item. You would open the hearing to any public comment. You'd read what were your meeting about, which would be this, and then you could close the hearing during your regular scheduled meeting, take a vote on releasing that 25,000, which is what you proposed. And at that point, we could then go forward and make that transfer from the trust, bring it in as a revenue. Again, when you're looking at it, you're going to still see that we spent it on the expenditure side, but you're going to have 25,000 over in the revenues that would, when we do the fund balance, would kind of wash that out. The 25,000 is what you discussed. The board has the purview of choosing any amount that you wish. You have the ability to choose to do it or not. It's entirely the board's decision, but I just wanted to remind you that that had been a discussion item and give you the opportunity to take the steps necessary should you wish to do that.
Yeah, because as I recall, Jason was recommending that we basically do 25,000 a year for 5 years.
Right.
And that would then leave us with 45,000-ish, which is enough to replace a server if you have an emergency.
Right.
Great.
So what I'm asking you to do tonight, if this is, you're not going to take any action, but you would need to set it on a future agenda as a public, a public hearing, and Todd could then add that onto the agenda, and I can help with the necessary posting and all of those things once you folks have picked a date.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
So one more, no, just kidding. Next up, we have 24-25 superintendent goals. Todd's come up and presented some goals for
Yeah,
us.
and actually, we don't necessarily need to talk about this in any great detail tonight. I just wanted to put these in front of you because by our newly revised superintendent evaluation policy, we're supposed to have 2 meetings a year where we, have non-public to discuss the progress on goals. And obviously, before you can talk about progress towards goals, I have to have some. So obviously, I presented to you last meeting the goals of the district as well as the 2 growth plans. And obviously, you've developed your goals, and these are my goals, sort of kind of piggybacking off all of those. So basically, what I'd be hoping would happen at the next meeting on the 22nd, we'd have a non-public where we could just spend some time talking about how things are going.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 5, proposed state New Hampshire School Board Association delegate resolutions. Do you have resolutions from the
No,
NHSBA?
this would be
So
if we
us
had things
proposing.
we wanted to
Yeah,
propose.
okay. Does anyone, we did mention it last meeting, does anyone have any items you'd like to propose? School Board Association? No? All right,
And the deadline is tomorrow, if anybody changes their mind between now and then.
no pressure. You have all night. I think, ironically, someone gave you a 1-day deadline, just recently. Sorry. As you remember last meeting, we discussed unsealing the November 2015 minutes of the 12th, 15th, 16th, and 18th. They're all together in one envelope. That was for the Sullivan County District Attorney so they could wrap up some ongoing complaints he's working on. We'd agreed to do that and then realized we didn't actually have the minutes with us. So
That
does
would have
anyone,
been helpful.
which would have been helpful, does everyone recall that? Does anyone want to recap on it? Okay, great. So we have the minutes with us now that we need to unseal or decide if we're going to unseal. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to work with Dan on this, but maybe we can read the minutes to you should we decide to unseal them. So
I mean, we can talk about it, other people are so this is not problematic. I can absolutely accept that.
okay. So what I'd like to do is first seek a motion on whether or not we want to review them to be unsealed, and then we'll go into non-public should we decide we do want to review them, and then we will review them, and then we'll come out of non-public and make a motion whether or not we formally unseal them.
I might be completely misremembering. I thought we had like sort of authorized a subcommittee to look at.
No, we talked about that, but I had mentioned that we have to be here as a committee, or as a meeting, as an assembly anyways, to do the motions to unseal it
Okay.
and to approve the.
I thought we kind of did a
So-
blanketed motion for that, didn't we? And mean that.
We started to, but then we canceled it because we didn't actually have the minutes. But we decided it wasn't worth doing a subcommittee because we'd have to meet and come back here and present it to you, and, like, it just didn't make any sense. Why have an extra meeting?
But you are correct, there is a, in our policy, we have a
Yeah.
subcommittee that can review them and make
Yeah.
recommendations.
So if that's all clearish, I'd seek a motion to review the non-public minutes just mentioned with the possibility of unsealing them.
So,
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Amy. Given the circumstances around them, I'd like to do this by roll call vote. Phil Mazzaro. Aye. Lonnie Stebbins. Gary Swanson, aye. Dan Smith.
Aye.
Aye. Amy Tilton.
Aye.
All right. With that, we have agreed to unseal them, or review them, excuse me, and we do that in non-public. So pursuant to RSA 91A3,
Did you want to, and just acknowledge the donations before we go, so we don't have any other business to attend to?
I'd actually like to come back on air when we unseal them, when we make a motion to unseal them out and finalize any action items.
sorry, guys.
Hey, we've all those action items anyway, so,
So much action.
all right, so I'd seek a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Motion by Phil, second by are back in. All right.
I think we don't actually need to fit dogs. What's fine? You're muted.
All right. Apologies, everyone. We're back in public session. It's 6:18 PM. I'd seek a motion to unseal the November 12th, November 15th, November 16th, and November 18th, 2015 minutes, non-public minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Lazaro, second by Stebbins. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, with that, those minutes are unsealed, and we voted to authorize you to send them to Barbara and the Sullivan County District Attorney. Okay, next up, we have some donations. I'd like to acknowledge the generous donations from the Newmarket Elementary School PTA for $700, children's author and poet Matt Forrest Eswine to present and read to the students. We have New Hampshire, or excuse me, NCEP has donated $500 for graduation roses and flowers for graduation. Students Jonathan Tudor and Emma Woolwick as I think we requested that, and NCEP donated $750 for senior high school wellness day. Apologies, apparently I haven't done this in a while. So thank you very much for those generous donations. All right, at 6:20, we'll open the floor for public comment. And seeing no one, we will close the floor at 6:20. All right. I seek a motion to approve the July 11th, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Phil, second by Dan. Hold on 1 second, Larry. Any discussions, corrections in those minutes? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Uh,
I seek a motion for the second read and approval, excuse me, this is the second read of policy ACN, KEC, and KECR. Seek a motion to approve those policies.
So moved.
Motion by Phil,
Second.
second by Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And by the way, that Title IX thing I was telling you about, ACN is one of the policies that you have to have, and we are one step ahead of the game on that. So good
Look at
for
that.
us.
My goodness.
Setting the pace.
Well, technically it's due today, so I don't know if we're ahead of the game.
We were thinking about it.
Someone have the manifest.
I move to approve the manifest in the amount of $1,250,652.88.
Motion by Phil, do we have a second? Second by Dan. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Seek a motion to approve the transfer of appropriations for the My View Literacy Program that Janet presented. That's by Lonnie, second by Phil. Any discussion? Janice, thank you for your work, and thank the teachers and staff for evaluating those programs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Dan.
Maybe we should all wait for a second before we say that.
Oh, the lag.
Next up, I'd seek a motion to have a public hearing regarding the school technology expendable trust fund release.
Do we need a motion to do that, or we just have to say we want to set a date?
We have the public hearing? Oh, yeah, I guess
We
we
just have
should
to
date.
put it on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah,
Like,
so I would
Yeah,
suggest we
I-
just do it on August 22nd.
Yeah, that's perfect, yeah, thank you. All right, we have no New York School Board Association delegate resolutions, so we will skip that. And we have already approved and unsealed those minutes, so we are done there. With that, does anyone have anything else or any items that they've on the next agenda? It's so early, I feel like we should. All right.
He's expected to fill the time.
All right, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Amy, second by Phil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With that, we are adjourned at 6.
No lag, I know. He's right
See you,
there.
Dan.